Hi everyone, I'm continuing on with my many ways to use Stampin' Up! Products to color your stamped images, and now I'm on blends. And blends are really fun. They come in 2-packs. So I've been showing you how pencils come in you get multiple colors in 1 pack of pencils or multiple colors in 1 pack of markers, but now we're moving on to Stampin' Blends, and these are alcohol markers, different type of marker. It's like a permanent marker. Think of a Sharpie. And they come in a 2-pack like this. You get a light and a dark, and each one is dual tipped. You have a brush side and a bullet side. And so I'm going to show you some ways to use this to color, and we're going to use Zinnia, Simply Zinnia, I believe is the name of the stamp set. And so if you haven't watched my other videos, I did one on Stampin' Up! Watercolor pencils, and then I did another one using the same stamp set, same card, but I wanted to show different ways to use coloring in our Stampin' Up! Products. So I've got watercolor pencils, and then traditional markers, which are this little guy right here, skinny little marker, also dual tipped, and you've got a brush side and a bullet nib, and so you've got, these are not alcohol based, these are water based, and so I showed some ways to use these in another video. So if you're interested in checking those out, go through my videos and find them. They're all going to be linked in the description of this video, and also I'll have links to purchase the products if you want to check them out in my online store. So I hope that this is helpful. I've done this type of thing before with the Apple Harvest stamp set, and I did one a few years back ago with some crocuses, where I showed the exact same card colored with different methods, and it's kind of fun. It's just a little way to show how to use some of your products that you might not have known. So anyway, let's get into the blends. Okay, here is the Simply Zinnia stamp set, and this is what we're going to be using to do our coloring. It's a beautiful stamp set, and it's really great for coloring techniques, so that's what I'm sticking with. And I am going to show you how to get a good image. You need to use Memento ink and not your standard classic inks, and that's because you want to make sure that, you know, these are blendable markers, blending the two tones together or even colors together. You don't want to blend your outline, so you need to use the Memento outline because it is a different type of ink, so it's not going to blend. Whereas something like, some people think StazOn would be great for that because that's a permanent ink, but so is this. So those are kind of compatible. So if you used a StazOn ink to ink up your stamped image, that black's going to blend out and become part of your coloring. Oops, let's grab a few leaves as well. Okay, so as in my watercolor pencil video and my marker video, I am going to color my zinnias in this bright, bold way. So you can have some really soft pastel flowers and stick with kind of solid one color flower. I'm trying to match like the boldness of this. So keep that in mind as I go along, and I'm trying to get all of mine the same. So not necessarily the same, but as close as I can get anyway, or in the same feel. So I'm going to stick with some bright color choices here. Now, Stampin' Blends come in almost every color that Stampin' Up! Offers, but not a few. So for example, I was using Gorgeous Grape in my colored pencil and my Stampin' Write marker one because there's a Gorgeous Grape. However, there is not a Gorgeous Grape Stampin' Blend. What's up with that, huh? So I wonder if one will come. There's a new catalog just 1 month, well, 1 month for demonstrators, 2 months for customers away, and so you'll get to see if there are any new colors, blends coming out. But right now I'm going to go with this one is Orchid Oasis, and it's a nice purple, and so I'm going to use that. And let's see, what did I grab? I grabbed Lemon Lolly to do the little stamens, and I think that's what these are called. I'm going with that. That's what I went in the other videos. And I'm not going to go with a dark and a light. See how there's a dark and a light? I'm only going to use one shade because they're so tiny that I'm just going to go for it. So I'm kind of doing those first just because they're so small and I kind of want to get them out of the way. And that's just these tiny little flowers that kind of stick up from the center of the big flower. And I don't think they're tiny flowers. I think there's something else, but I feel like they're called stamens. I need some floral expert to kind of tell me. Okay, so I'm going to do them all just because they're all the same. Alright, so that was Lemon Lolly, and I went with Lemon Lolly Dark. Okay, now the center, I'm going to go, like I said, I'm sticking with this kind of floral color scheme, and so I'm going to go with Pumpkin Pie for my center. Now that does come in a light and a dark, and again this area is small, but you can get a few shades. So I like to do the whole thing in a light. And then I'm going to go back in with the dark and kind of add highlights. Now again, this is a small area, but I'm kind of adding, like, I'm leaving a ring of light color kind of around, just, I don't know, give it a little dimension. Okay, and I'm going to leave that alone. Now when I do these petals, I'm going to do some of them and in full, and then I'm going to fast forward through the rest because there's a lot of petals there, and you probably don't want to see me do every single little petal because that would just be a little time consuming. So I'm going to start with this fun color. This is Bubble Bath, and I really like it. Now here there is a light and a dark as usual, so I'm going to start, how I like to do it is start with the light. Some people like to start with the dark, and if you do that, what you would do is color in the areas that you want to be dark and then go over it with the light. I kind of like to do mine in a different step, but let's show you the difference in color here. There's the light and there's the dark. See how there's a difference in color? It's kind of nice. Now sometimes I have noticed, and you might want to try this with yours, that the nib end, so that was the brush tip, is sometimes a little darker. So that's the light, and it's acting almost like the dark. Now sometimes when it kind of dries up, fades into the paper, it will lighten up a little bit, but I like to just see, because then I say to myself, well, here I think I get 2 shades, but really I'm kind of getting 3 because I've got a light and a medium and a dark. Now that's not the same with every marker, so when I get my Stampin' Blends, I like to kind of just do a little thing like this on the side and see what I have. So the lightest is the light brush tip, and the darkest is the dark nib tip, and then in the middle I've kind of got this shade that are kind of the same. So you have to kind of just see what happens with your marker and see what you've got. So, and not every color does this. It's for some reason, I don't know why, and I store them on their side like this, so I don't know what it has to do with. I don't know if it has to do with concentration in the tip. I don't know if it has to do with some of the alcohol part, the part that makes it an alcohol-based marker. Does that concentrate different in the different types of tips? I don't know. Something about the ink property? Don't know. Alright, so I'm going to tell you, I'm doing a few, and then I'm going to kind of stop myself. I'm leaving the furthest back petals because I'm going to do those in a darker color. So then I'm going to go with my dark. Now remember, I learned that the nib was darker, so I'm going to use that one. And I'm going to come in and I'm going to do these areas that are kind of how the artist did the illustration. She added these little kind of marks, and I'm going to use that. I'm going to follow her lead and or his lead and go up the centers there and highlight some of these areas. So that just kind of helps the flower look like it's going in. It gives the petals some dimension. Now I'm going to go back in with some even more punch of color in a bit, but I'm going to finish off the bubble bath first. Okay, I think that's it for the bubble bath. Now, sometimes, depending upon the image, I might go over the dark areas with the light yet again. So I might do 3 stages. I might do light, dark, light. This particular image doesn't need that. I think I do that with things like, let's say you're doing a larger space and you want the transition from dark to light to be more blended, and you don't want the harsh lines. This is kind of has those lines just built in, so I'm not worrying about it so much. Okay, so now I'm going to go with another color, and I thought what might be pretty, as I said, I'm trying to kind of copy this, so I'm going with this lighter one. I'm going to go with something darker. Now, Melon Mambo is a great choice, and I realized it didn't use, I don't think the Stampin' Blends came in Melon Mambo before. Somehow I don't have, it's like I have an entire wall of blends and I don't have Melon Mambo. So when they added it at some point, I just skipped right past that. So I do have a newer color, Berry Burst, which is a returning color. So I'm going to use Berry Burst as my boldest color, but I do believe in the paper here it's Melon Mambo. And when I did the markers and the colored pencil, I did Melon Mambo. So on my next order, I will have Melon Mambo blends. So again, I've got a dark and a light, and I'm going to show you that little test I like to do. So that's the brush tip and that nib tip. Now in this one, the brush tip was the darker. Isn't that funny? And there's the dark, and here's the dark nib, and again it's lighter. So inks are funny things. They're just made up of these different compounds, and you don't know for sure what colors are, how different they're going to be. See how much darker that is? And then this one, it's lighter, the nib. I don't know why. I mean, is it? I don't know. I don't know what it is. Some scientific discovery needs to be made. I need to see how am I storing them. Like I said, I store them all flat. I don't know. I'd be curious if you have the Berry Burst, if yours are the same. And you know what? It doesn't matter. As long as you do a test on what you have, then you play around with them the way they work in your house. I mean, part of me thinks, is it which closer to the window? But they're in these like closed containers. I can't imagine light getting through unless it gets through the cap, but those are also very thick. So it's very confusing to me why some are lighter than others. As long as you know what yours do, you're good to go. Alright, so like I said, this is Berry Burst. And I am not a zinnia expert. I did go buy some zinnia seeds actually. And they did not have multicolors like this paper. They did have some where the centers were very bright. So it'll be interesting to see. I have never grown them, but I think I'm going to give it a go this time with my seeds. My daughter was interested in doing that. So I'm going to go with the blends, and this time, remember I learned that my nib is darker, so I'm not going to use the nib end. I'm going to use the brush end and just be careful. Now when you use your blend markers, your blends, you don't want to press heavy. This is a really delicate little brush, and you just use it like a brush. Think of it as a paintbrush. And press lightly, because you don't want to ruin that wonderful tip. That is such a sharp, skinny, you can get a really skinny line with that, and you can get a really flat line, and so you want to treat that well. So I'm just giving it a little shade to make the area where the petals overlap really stand out. And then I'm going to go back in again, and I think I'm going to go with the nib tip because I don't want it to be as dark. And I'm going to give even more highlight to I'm really going to punch out this center here. Give it more depth of color. I'm kind of copying, again, I told you I wanted to do this kind of graphic-y color scheme. So I'm coming back in really darkening. Okay, I think that looks really fun. All right, I like that one. Okay, so let's do another color family. This time I'm gonna go with Fresh Freesia, which is more of a purple. And I'm gonna bring it in with the orchid. So I'm gonna do the same thing, and I'll do a little section, and then I'm gonna fast forward. So again, I'm starting with the light, and I'm gonna do a little test. All right, nib is lighter. Oh, and here the nib is darker. Crazy. Okay. Oops, that's not what I wanted. All right, I'm working in sections again. Now the working in sections thing, I want to explain a little bit as to why. It's because alcohol markers dry really fast. You'll notice I always cap the marker in between. Even though I'm going to go back to that marker again, I capped it because you don't want your markers to dry out. Alcohol markers dry faster than regular markers, and both on the paper and in your pen. So if you cap them in between, that's going to help the longevity. Also, the blendability. Now again, on this one, I'm really not doing a lot of blending, which is when you try to have a soft transition from one color to another. I'm kind of liking the bold strokes, so that's a little bit different. Let me see if I can do a little sidebar and do some blending. Let's see. I'm just going to use this color since that's what I've got out. So I've got my light, and then you've got, say, your dark. Maybe you're doing something rounded. And see, my dark is almost the same color as my light. That's weird. I might have to look into that. Okay, so let's go with this as a dark. And you want that transition to be softer. Let's say you don't want that sharp line. Then you can go over it again with that light and blend it in and kind of work it back and forth. And so I've got a light, but I still have my dark. And then if you need that dark to come back again, remember this one's darker, you can go over it again, and you've got this ombre from light to dark without a sharp line. So that's kind of the idea of blends, which is, it looks really beautiful when you're doing something that you need to have that soft transition. Or like if you're doing, let's say, a ball and you have a dark end and a light end. So let's do a circle shape. And it's not a great circle. There we go. All right, but we want that to look round and dimensional. Then you can take your dark and you're gonna kind of go along the edge. And this is great for a balloon too. I'd like to have a balloon that's got a dark side and a light side. So you can do that. So I went light, dark, light again. And I'm gonna blend this out so that I don't have those harsh marker lines. Blend it out. And if it dries too fast and you haven't done that yet, you can't really get that blend going. And you can even take, there's something called a color lifter, which is white. It's not really white. There's no color in here. This is just kind of, it's not really even a lifter. It's more of a color pusher. And you can add a little, I don't know if this one is one I bought back when I first started. So I might need to grab a new one. I think I bought some new ones. Let me go grab it. Yeah, this one, when did Stampin' Blends come out? Several years. So that's a very old one. Here's a new one. Okay, color lifter. I say it's a color pusher. And you're gonna go back and forth, and sometimes you don't see anything happening right away, but then you're going to see it's pushing that ink away. So just imagine a little highlight on a balloon, for example. And that's a really fun little thing you can do. So anyway, it's a way to get a nice transition, and you've got a light up there. Imagine light coming from here, it's darkest down there, and you blend it all out. Hopefully that makes sense. So here we're doing this flower, and we don't have those need for transition. But I wanted to show you that because I didn't want this. I wanted to kind of, I'm going to toss that. I wanted you to see the full picture on these blends. They are more expensive, but they're really fun to color with. And in the Stampin' Up markers video, I was kind of showing how, do I still have that little scrap of paper around? Here it is. I was showing how you can kind of get the idea of a dark and a light, because you can, so you can get a nice color going. But then if you wanted to, you can't get a lighter, right? Because it's only one shade. If you go over it again a second time, you're going to get another dark color. Now as it dries, it's not as stark a light and dark, but you can kind of get a dark and a light. Now you can't get any blending going with that though, so that's one thing. But I did mention these are water-based, so you can actually play a little bit with water. Watch that video because I have a video on that also. Okay, so we're back to the blends video. All right, so I'm going to do this part on fast forward. Okay, last flower. I'm going to do one more. This time I'm going to go with this as my lightest color. This is Berry Burst again. Okay, on to the leaves. I'm going with a Lemon Lime Twist. And Old Olive. You know, I think I'm going to go Mossy Meadow. I'm going light Mossy Meadow. Maybe I should go dark Mossy Meadow. I'm trying to get a big kind of contrast, like this leaf there, but these these leaves are not drawn the same way as that paper, so it's a little different. Same idea though, same feel. The darker kind of center veins. Is that the dark one? So on this one I am going back over to kind of blend those in, since they don't have like defined spaces. Okay, all right, now I'm going to take my little dies and cut these out. I've already done one. I wanted to show you that. I didn't want to make the video super long because coloring is kind of long enough as it is, and I wanted to show you what I did with these flowers. I put them on a card. Now the zinnia card, the zinnia stamp set has a really nice long one, and I did the pencils and the markers using that one, but then I wanted to change it up, so I used Happy Birthday, which is the Simply Zinnia is an online exclusive stamp set, which means it's not in the catalog. You have to find it online, And the Sweetly Scripted is also, and it's just perfect for these long banners, and I really loved it, so I grabbed that one. I wanted to change it up on this one and do it a little different. And those zinnia dies also cut out just cardstock pieces, which is what this is made out of. So they're just, it's a really fun stamp set. It's a really fun die set. And I think some parts of it are already on back order. I think it might just be the sequins, but they're going to come back with more, so check it out. And I hope you enjoyed and got some tips and tricks on coloring with your Stampin' Blends. I think they're a really fun tool, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.